The day the divorce papers arrived, I stood on my front porch, staring at that thin manila envelope, and felt my entire world crumble around me. 34 years of marriage, 3 children I'd raised from infancy who were now grown, a house we'd built together brick by brick, and a future I'd always taken for granted, all of it shattered into pieces inside that single envelope. The man I'd loved since I was 16, the one I'd held hands with for the first time at our high school prom, the husband who'd stayed by my hospital bed all night when I was sick, had been plotting his exit for 6 whole months. He'd emptied our joint bank account, transferred the deed to our mountain cabin, the one we'd gone skiing at every winter, to his sister, and worst of all, he'd convinced our oldest son, the child I'd endured a difficult labor to bring into the world, to take his side, painting me as a hysterical, unreasonable woman to our friends and family. When the judge slammed his gavel down, I walked out of the courtroom with nothing but the clothes on my back and a $500 temporary support check, barely enough to cover 2 weeks of rent. I sat on the cold courthouse steps for hours, watching the cars pass by, and for the first time, I truly understood what it meant to have nothing left. At first, I clung to my siblings like a drowning person clutching a life raft. We'd grown up poor, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to put food on the table, and her favorite saying was always, "Family is everything." Blood is thicker than water, she'd remind us. I believed that with all my heart, but when I called my brother, my voice shaking, and asked if I could crash on his couch while I looked for a new place, he hesitated, saying his wife had boundaries and couldn't host a stranger. My sister, who'd always been the family peacemaker, the one who'd always said, "We're in this together," stopped answering my calls entirely. It wasn't until a year later, when my mother's will was read, that I learned the truth. She'd left me a small inheritance, enough to cover 6 months of rent, but my brother and sister had already plotted to steal it, convinced I'd wasted on rent and therapy and didn't deserve it. The children who'd once been the center of my world also turned into strangers. My oldest son, blinded by the trust fund my ex had promised him, called me selfish over the phone for fighting for spousal support, saying I'd ruined his life. My middle child, desperate to stay neutral and not upset either parent, stopped visiting me altogether, sending only cold, generic holiday texts. Only my youngest daughter, still in college, would check in occasionally, but even she grew distant, afraid of angering her father and losing her tuition money. I learned the hard way that parenthood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes, time and money erode family bonds faster than any argument ever could. My friends also drifted away. The couples we double dated with for decades, the ones who'd been at our wedding and our children's births, chose sides, and most chose his. "He's the one with the money," one friend admitted guiltily, her voice low, over coffee at our favorite cafe. "We can't afford to lose his connections." I sat there, stirring my now cold latte, and finally realized I'd been fooling myself all along. They'd never loved me, they'd loved the idea of our perfect family. The moment I became a messy, broken woman, they walked away without a second glance. I thought that was rock bottom. I thought I'd lost everyone. I thought I'd never be able to pick myself up again, that the pain would never end. But 6 months later, a letter arrived in my mailbox that changed everything. It wasn't from a friend, my daughter, or even a lawyer. It was from my ex-husband's accountant. And what he wrote made my blood run cold, because it was the truth I'd been waiting for, the proof I needed to finally fight back.